Beachhead, a science fiction action adventure, Chapter 1. Their dad woke them up in the middle of the night. He busted into the room, shouting and cursing, light from the hallway laying a slash across the floor between two twin beds pressed against each wall. His boots clomped on the hardwood as he pounded in and kicked the footboards. Jake, his gravelly voice was laced with fear. Mark, get up. Jake Russell was 16 years old, with a long, lanky body made for basketball and reaching stuff on the top shelf. While he didn't mind helping for the stuff kept up high, he detested basketball and dreamed of being a quarterback on the football team. Jake knew with his height, he could see over the offensive line and pick out any receiver with ease. The problem was in throwing the ball. He sucked. He rolled out of bed and plopped two giant size 16 feet on the cold floor. What is it? Emergency. His dad dropped his voice to a whisper and shook his younger brother Mark awake. Mark, wake up. You boys get dressed and get downstairs quick. The whisper scared Jake more than the rough entry into the room. He was used to his dad yelling, especially at him, but when things got quiet, Jake knew some serious crap was going down. He slipped into a worn pair of jeans and put on fur-lined moccasins he wore for house shoes. Up, Mark, he yelled. Get up. Mark had always been a heavy sleeper, and waking him in the middle of the night was like trying to steer the Titanic away from an iceberg. Slow and laborious. Jake kept a squirt gun on the nightstand for mornings when his brother was especially slow, and deployed the use now. Two quick pulls of the trigger sent streams of water up one nostril and across the forehead of his 13-year-old sibling, and earned Jake a squeal of protest. Dad said, Come on, Jake grunted. The communication between the boys often employed grunts, and when that proved ineffective, devolved into punches, kicks, and noogies. Even though Jake was taller, he was loath to admit Mark's thick-fingered hands were masterful at the noogie delivery. Move it, he grunted again and slipped into a flannel shirt. Mark swung his legs over the side of the bed and slipped a t-shirt on with his pajama pants. He felt around for his slippers as he watched his brother walk out and debated laying his head down again. A trickle of water dripped down his nose, and when he decided he didn't want to face that again, he could only find one shoe, so he skipped them and padded down the wooden steps on bare feet. His dad sat at the plank table in the kitchen, a fresh brewed pot of coffee on the table. He gripped a huge mug in calloused hands, so tight that it made his large, walnut sized knuckles pop out. Dad was a huge bear of a man, as tall as Jake, but built thick like Mark. Each boy pulled a distinctive attribute from their father in the looks department. Jake with his height and eyes, Mark with his girth and heavy brow. Both were stubborn as their old man, which led to some really impressive standoffs around the house his father built. It had been easier when Mom was around, but she took off 3 years ago with a traveling salesman and lived now somewhere near Vegas. The television glowed blue on the wall in the kitchen, the sound turned down. It was tuned to a science fiction movie, which Mark found weird because he knew his dad loved the History Channel and pretty much nothing else. He plopped into a seat across from Jake and looked at the clock on the wall. 2 in the morning. What's going on, Dad? Jake asked as he helped himself to a cup of coffee. He poured 2 large dollops of creamer into the cup and stirred it with his finger. Dad nodded towards the television and unmuted it. The East Coast is under siege, and reports are coming in that the West Coast is under attack as well. The Lick offensive has moved from Mars, and reached Earth. This station will stay with you, reporting to keep you informed. The television clicked over to static as an explosion rippled through the news station. Dad reached up and flipped to the next station. Reporting live from Miami, where the first Lick ship entered the atmosphere 10 minutes ago. So far, their smaller aircraft have remained inside the battleship, but our experts tell us wait, something is falling from the ship? The camera moved up in a shaky zoom and locked onto the image of a black blur that dropped from the belly of the ship. It struggled to keep up and keep in focus, and when it finally did, the image coalesced into what looked like a bomb. It landed with a concussive thud outside of the camera's view, and as it panned back onto the reporter, she screamed as a wave of flames rolled across her and blotted out the image. The station, too, grayed out to a static wall. Dad hit mute again. It's been happening over and over, he said. I've been turning channels and watching it. His voice trembled as he took a sip of coffee in a shaking hand. London, he continued. Paris, New York, all the East Coast, they're saying. All the West Coast, too. Are they near us, Dad? Jake asked. Chicago, St. Louis, New Orleans, said Dad. At least as far as I can tell, they keep knocking out stations. What about the internet? Mark slid out of his seat and grabbed a tablet off the charger on the kitchen counter. He deftly glided through site after site, live feeds reporting panic and mayhem when he could find them. What are we going to do? Jake asked. Are they coming here? Dad nodded. I want you boys to get up to the cabin, he said. All of us, you mean? Mark set the tablet down. Get upstairs and get dressed. Get some winter things together, and I'm going to pack up the pantry. We're going to hole up in the cabin until we can figure out what's going on. We know what's going on, Dad. Jake stared across his coffee cup at his father. The Licks have won Mars, which means they wiped out the Space Force. If they're taking out major cities, we're being invaded. Yup, Dad sighed and drained the last of his coffee. He poured the rest of the pot into his mug and went through the motions of making another pot. Aliens invading Earth. He never thought he'd see the day. If they were going to pack up and run, he'd need more coffee before the night was done. If you like this, keep reading The Action-Packed Adventure. You can pick up your copy on Amazon of Beachhead Invasion Earth, or check out chrislowrybooks.com.